Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I have got a card to share with you using the Craftoween from Spellbinders. This is day 5, our spider with his little top hat. So when I saw this, I instantly thought sort of like a tap dancing spider. And I did actually mess around trying to create some little shoes for his 8 legs there, but it was just too small. Even with my Cricut, I just could not cut out something that small. So we kind of reworked and I thought, well, I can still have them dancing. How about we put them at a disco? So that became my plan for this card, and I am so happy with how it turned out. So I started out here putting my spiders together, and I wanted to add a little variation. So I am actually pulling in the smaller top hat from day 2 of our Craftoween. This is the one that sat on top of the raven's head. I've cut that out in a green and a little purple sort of band there to go across it. And this way, my 2 spiders are wearing different hats. It just gives it a little bit more of a variation. I've, of course, layered my spider together here, white on the bottom, black in the middle, and brown on top, just the same as I did for my Just the Cuts video. And then his little legs are cut out in black. These go together very easily. They are quick to cut out, quick to put together. And I'm just using some art glitter glue here. So here is that smaller top hat from day 2 that I mentioned. You'll see that the brim of this hat has kind of a curve cut out of it. That was to fit on our raven, and it didn't quite fit the curve of the spider. So the way I worked around that is I'm just going to place a little bit of glue along the edge, and I'm going to place this hat behind the spider. It's very, very little portion of that because I didn't want to lose seeing it, but it's just a little further back on his head is my plan. And I think it worked out pretty well. So there we have our 2 Dapper spiders. Now I wanted to walk you through how I cut out this disco ball as well as the rays on my Cricut. So what I did was I am doing a 5x7 card, but I'm going to create this sort of like a Polaroid picture. I really love creating cards like that on this larger size. And I have trimmed down my square. It's not quite square. It's almost square background, which measures 4.5 by 5. And I cut that out of a gray. But what I did is I went ahead here and I added in a square that size. And then I just found some spiders that were similar to my cutout. I proportioned those down to size, laid them out how I wanted them to be on the card, and that allowed me to see how large I wanted my rays to be, as well as my disco ball. So I then chose the colors I wanted the rays in and colored each of those accordingly. And then my disco ball I did in a 2-tone. So the back layer is going to be a silver mirrored cardstock, and then the front is going to be that same light purple, kind of keeping within the theme of my colors here. All right, so I have gone ahead, cut all of those out, and we're going to place together our little scene. Now, I did already glue the disco ball together. Sorry, I didn't get that on camera, but it was pretty simple. I just put a little dot of glue behind each of the solid squares and placed my mirror cardstock behind it. I have laid out my strobe lights here, and I didn't do these. You'll see they're not perfectly spaced out apart. I wanted this just kind of be random and also give sort of some movement and like some chaos to our little dance floor. So I've spaced those out. I'm adding some art glitter glue behind each of these, and I will press them into place. What I'm doing right now is just kind of hitting the middle of each of the rays to make sure the majority of that is nice and tightly glued down to my square here. I will then go ahead and trim off all of the excess and add some little dots of glue along the edges to make sure that that's down nice and tight. I did leave that out just for editing purposes, but they are all solidly placed on this square here. Now I needed to create some type of a dance floor, and I played around with this for a little bit. I tried adding some wood planks. That didn't look quite right. It was adding too much to the scene. So I decided to go ahead and just trim out a circle. I've used my Sissic circle dies. This is the largest one. I think it is 4.5 or 4 3/4 in diameter. I'm adding some foam tape to the back of this, but we're just going to use half of it to create a little dance floor there for our spiders to be tapping on. I'm going to peel away that backing, and then I'm lining this up very carefully. I don't want to take up too much of my background, but I also needed enough space that the spiders would fit. So just kind of cautiously placing that down, watching my measurements. I'm going to, of course, trim away the excess. Laying out my spiders here, making sure they're good to go, and we will place down our disco ball. I love it. I love the way this turned out. So I did want to give this a little more focus. I'm going to go ahead and place some pop dots behind it. Obviously, the string that my ball is hanging from is way too thin for me to place any kind of foam dots behind. So I'm going to press this into place. I will add a little bit of glue to that string portion. And then I'm just going to press that down onto the card base. Getting that into position. And then I'm just going to run my finger along that, tap that down. I wanted the top of it to at least be secured. And I'm going to let that dry fully because it is very, very thin, easy to tear. I'm going to let that dry fully before I trim off the excess there. Now, of course, we have to have some movement on our spiders. We want them dancing. So I have pulled in 2 mini wobbles. I'm going to start with this spider in the back. And this does get a little cramped for our wobbles. I'm going to show you shortly here how I fix that. So we're going to press this one into place. And where our wobble trouble comes into play is that there are so many legs on these spiders. So when I place the second one down, they're going to get a bit tangled if you try to wobble both of them at the same time. So the way I'm going to fix that is I'm going to get the second one ready. And basically we're going to attach the 2 together so that they wobble simultaneously instead of kind of working against each other. They'll work together. So I'm going to press this into place and then I'm going to wobble them so you can kind of see what's happening and how they're overlapping. Yeah, it'll kind of catch. They can both wobble, but if you're purposefully, kind of going to play with them and make them wobble, it just kind of catches. So I'm going to take my art glitter glue. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the legs of the back spider, just a few of them, just little dots. And then I'm going to glue those to the back of my spider in front. I'm using my fingers there. I was using my pokey tool. And then I found the best thing was I just grabbed my bone folder. It was a little bit wider, a little bit flatter. And I held that until it glued into place. So now we're stamping our sentiment. I've got my panel for the front of my card. I've laid out my square and my sentiment. We're going with Creepin' It Real because spiders are creepy. Stamping that with my Simon Says Stamp Intense black ink as always. We're going to add some glue to the back of our Polaroid square. And then we'll press that into place on our panel. For the inside, we'll of course stamp out another sentiment. This one reads, "Magic and mischief await." And to finish up our card, we are going to add some art glitter glue to the back of our front panel. And we'll pop that here onto our card base. And I wanted to add a little bit of color on our inside panel as well. I had some leftover of this green. This is Peridot by Spellbinders. I ran that through my die cutting machine with my Stamp Market 1/4 inch strip dies. And I was able to actually get 2 out of that. I'm going to use it on another card later. But I added some art glitter glue. Going to press that down along the bottom. Add some ATG to the back. And we'll place that here on the inside of our card base. There you can see our little dancing, wobbling spiders. And that will complete our card for today. Here are a few close-ups of the finished card. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I've used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.